What's up, everybody? It is Orange Bloods Live. I am Jeff Ketchum. He is Chad Hastings in Texas OU. A little bit more than 48 hours away. We've got Steve Sarkisian's updates from his Thursday press gathering, which might have been the most interesting press gathering that he's had of the year so far. Some interesting little news and nuggets regarding the offensive line. We'll jump into that. It's a good topic because central to today's main theme is the conversation of the Texas offensive line, how it got to where it is. We've got our Truth and Lies column over at orangebloods.com today. And one of the Truth and Lies questions is Kyle Flood the reason why Texas essentially didn't go out into the portal? Is it at his feet and his feet alone? Let's circle back to that in a second.
Okay.
That is the central theme of the show in general, but I don't want to bury actual news and discussion from today's game or from today's press conference. And I thought probably most interesting is that straight out of the gate, Chad, he was asked about Neto Umuzalo.
Okay.
You know, they didn't take a guy in the portal because of Neto. He was going to be the starter. And their belief that he was the reason, I mean, ultimately they felt like he was good enough that they couldn't find anybody in the portal better than him.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth-year guy, he's been in the system forever. He's in that same Kelvin Banks, DJ Campbell, Cole Hudson recruiting class.
Yeah. So this is a guy that they thought was the starter in Columbus. In the end, someone beat him out, right? Because Stroh technically started in Columbus, but they thought he was the guy. Correct.
Yeah. They were inactive in the market because they believed in Neto. And Neto's played, and like Neto has, when he's played, like been okay. Okay. Better than what happened last week in Gainesville. So then it's like, well, why isn't Neto playing? It's like, he's in the doghouse. People are like, we see him on the sidelines, but he doesn't have his helmet on. He looks like a guy that's been told your ass isn't getting on the field. But if that was the case, they could have just left his ass in Austin. They couldn't take the full allotment of players. Sark made a big point of talking about, I can't take everybody. So right. He's there. It's not like he's on special teams in a way that, well, he's on coverage units and the kickoff team. And okay, right? So it's turned into, I literally sent a couple of people text messages today asking, did Neto kill a hooker like Craig James? Like, what's going on? Technically 5, allegedly. Don't need Craig James suing us. Allegedly. I don't think anybody actually believes hookers were murdered in the recording of any videos, but like I sent that joke. A couple of the people knew the joke. In fact, but no, like, and then so it was the first question out of the gate was about Neto. Considering I was literally asking, I was like, I had somebody email me today on the support thing on Orange Bloods and was like, what's up with Neto?
Mm-hmm.
We joked on teams. They're not going to talk about Neto. They did. And Sark answered the question. First question out of the gate. I think it was Eric Henry, if I'm not mistaken, from Hook'em 24/7. If I got that wrong, I'm sorry, Eric, if that was you. Good job. He basically said consistency. He was kind of short about it.
Wow.
He was like every player in the program, got to be consistent. And that was really it. It was like, right, like he's got to have proper technique. He's got to be able to adjust. But that's true for every player. I was like, okay, but not at every position are we down to the third guy, right? So, yeah. But he did address it. If you're wondering, I know there are people in the chat right now that were wondering, did he kill a hooker? What happened? The Craig James thing, like scenario, makes as much sense as, well, they're just not going to play him, even though he's not worse than the guy that they didn't even have at guard last week. It's not, I don't know what to tell you with that answer, but that is the official answer. He's not consistent enough. I'll be honest, I never thought that it was a conspiracy. I never thought that again, any women of the night were harmed in the making of any of these things, right? But I did think that they probably thought he sucked. Now, he's not good because he's never been good. And I think they saw him in practice and were like, well, probably got to play Connor Stroh. And we know he's not good. Yeah. So I have just been like, the real question isn't why Neto hasn't been playing. It's why they would have thought he ever could have played in the first place.
Yeah, I was going to say, I heard you pretty clearly lay that argument out in the summer, like way back.
Oh, yeah.
Right. We've talked about it a long time, specifically that position. It's not like we all just overlooked left guard, back in the summer. You were not telling us in June. You know what I love about this team? Left guard. Left guard's going to be awesome.
I thought he was going to portal out because they didn't use him at all. Do you know how many games he played in last year?
2?
5.
Okay.
But he wasn't a red shirt. Like he could have played in them all. It was going to count eligibility-wise the same.
Yeah.
He played in 5 games. He played against Colorado State, UTSA, La Monroe, Florida, and Ohio State in the bowl game at the end of the season. So they didn't think it was worth a damn all year. By the way, am I okay, Chad? I'm looking at my face and I can't tell if I'm matching I can't tell if this is a kung fu movie or not.
Right. You just caught up as you got to the end of that sentence.
That was weird. It's weird when that happens.
It was weird, right?
And maybe because I'm looking at another browser, I do have to get a new computer. There's just no doubt about it. But he played in 5 games last year. And I thought, well, if he was any good, they'd have played him last year. They played Cole Hudson, and Cole Hudson wasn't good last year, but they played Cole Hudson in every game. And I thought he was going to portal out. I thought they would bring in somebody to replace him, and those things just didn't happen. Nate Kibble was asked about today. I mean, kind of the same thing. Second-year guy. Sark didn't want to come out and say he can't play, but, he's fighting for consistency too, which is code for we can't play him. And this all circles back to how did they get here on the offensive line front? I mean, it seems as simple as this. There was not, I've been told this week, and I've had people say, look, this is off the record. Okay. But I've had so many people mention it that it has surpassed the, hey, this didn't come from me kind of a deal. It's going around. It's the thing. In fact, when we did Truth and Lies earlier today, I was already planning on addressing it. And Anwar was like, well, this is what I'm hearing. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's why he and I share the notes in that particular blurb in that story. He'd been hearing the same thing. There was not a consensus on, or it was not unanimous, I guess is what I should say. Consensus may be the wrong word. It was not unanimous inside the building, to steal a Anwarism, about what strategy they should take. The word that everybody is hearing, I've not had one person counter this, is that Kyle Flood's told Steve Sarkisian, I got this. I'll take the guys we have. We'll be good. You don't have to go get anybody. That was not, again, a unanimous opinion amongst everybody on the staff, we could say, like in the football department. Let's call it that, without getting so specific that you get too specific. And I think that's fair. Sark listened to Flood. And I have not had anybody say they did it to save money. I haven't had anybody to say that Flood hates the portal or is opposed to the portal, or that they evaluated guys and genuinely didn't think that there were anybody out there that could help. The sense seems to be that the scope of this is as simple as, should we do this? Kyle Flood said, no, we're good. And Sarkisian listened to his offensive line coach.
And just for the record, this has not been confirmed by Sark. Nobody's asked that direct question, correct?
Oh, no. I mean, he won't even get into the real portal discussion. He was asked about that on Monday, and his whole, remember what he said is like, well, you know, he's pigeonholed himself. He's boxed himself into a position where he's like, you know, the question we have to ask ourselves is like, could we find guys in the portal that are better than the guys that we have? Exactly, Sark. Exactly.
Yeah.
And the implication when he doesn't expound on that answer is that they didn't look for anybody or didn't find anybody in the portal that thought that they were as good as Connor Stroh, right? Because he started games. You had to prepare that. The crazy thing is Texas hasn't been hit by the injury bug really at the offensive line yet. That they lose Andre Kojo, but he was never going to start ahead of Brandon Baker. So at best, he's your number 3 or number 4 tackle, depending on what you thought you would do with Nick Brooks. All things being equal, if I told anybody back in March that we'd get to the Texas OU game and that the only offensive line injury of note through the first half of the season would be with a backup tackle that might not have ever seen the field, or maybe only in case of an emergency would at least have seen the field at tackle, I think everybody would have been like, sign me up. I'll take that deal. It sucks for whoever that guy is. But if you're telling me no starters are going to get hurt, then what do I care if like the backup to the backup is hurt? So they, you know, look, it's complicated. And what Sark will never engage in this discussion in a really specific way. He won't hang anybody out to dry. What you'll almost certainly see next year is a wild overswing of an overcorrection, right? So the only position on the team, and then in the last 4 years, Texas has gotten out and got nobody. They've got quarterback. Hell, they went and got Velton Gardner at running back last year just because they had a space and they had some injuries. And they were like, we might need a guy. Funny how that came about. We know they've taken wide receivers. We know that they've taken tight ends. We know that under Tom Herman, they took offensive linemen.
Yeah.
They got Parker Braun.
4 full cycles, not one?
Oh, yeah. Because you got to go back to 2022. Well,
I knew it was 2 for sure. I guess I hadn't thought about it being 4.
This is the 5th season.
Yeah.
But 2022 is really the first real portal year. Before that, it was a lot of grad seniors and stuff, right?
Yeah.
The portal is open. But under Tom Herman, we saw Texas attack the portal or just the grad transfer market strongly. Parker Braun was a good player for Tom Herman. I think in 2020, if I remember Braun's last season, I think.
And the cat from Rice.
Anderson.
That was
an NFL player who.
That was Herman. That was the Herman era. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I was trying to give Sark credit for that somehow.
No, like Calvin Anderson played left tackle for a season and was an NFL player. And Parker Braun was an all ACC player that transferred to Texas in hopes that would boost his NFL stock. And it didn't happen, but he was a good college player. He was one of those rare guys that people will nitpick me on when I do the NFL. When I say a 4-star guy hits 25% of the time and because they get drafted in the NFL, and guys will go, well, what about guys that are good college players but don't go to the NFL? And it's like there's less of those than people realize, but Parker Braun would actually be a good example of a guy who's a really good college player that the NFL just never wanted to give 2 sniffs at. And you'd take Parker Braun right now on this Texas team, even if he weighs about 50 pounds less than what Kyle Flood generally likes to work with.
All right, I see these super chats. We will get to those after we talk about some screens. I've heard Texas fans asking for screens. Let's talk about the screens at your house to start with. AV Consultations can get you the bigger, better screen, the better setup that you've always wanted. If you're watching Texas OU at your buddy's house and you find out this weekend that he got an 80-inch screen and didn't tell you about it, and he wanted to go, ha-ha, for Texas OU, well, now you got a counter for the Thanksgiving and Christmas season. AV Consultations is the way to do it. 255-8678. All the screens, all the speakers, all the stuff set up the perfect way that you've always dreamed of. Make sure all the stuff that's on streaming looks the way it needs to look, and it's on a big screen. Don't keep watching that streaming stuff on small screens. avconsultations.com or go 255-8678. Tell them you heard about it here on OB Live. All right, that takes care of the screen if you're watching at your place. But if you need even more screens to watch the game on, you need to come watch it with us at TCH Social Austin. Oh, they've got a screen game at TCH Social Austin. I promise you. 183 and Anderson Mill. Come see us. Get those specials. $3 jellyfish is in effect once again. I guarantee you I'm going to have one this week. $2 select drafts, $4 Fanatic cocktails, and the wing special. Come on out and see us, and then pile on in right here on Orange Bloods Live for that post-game show. Shout out to Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm for sponsoring it. Hopefully, it's a 2-minute warning. Let's go from Catch, because Texas is handling that business against OU. We shall see. But either way, we'll get that post-game show ready to go for you. Come see us at TCH Social Austin. Catch coming into town for this one this week.
Of course. I'm like, Charles Jefferson in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Hell yeah. He's coming in for the
fly me in for the big games.
Coming in for the big games, bad beat bacon, and the whole thing. All right, let's go super chatting. We'll start with Joshy, $4.99. There's simply no way Neto is worse than what we have there right now.
I mean, it's possible that if not a hooker, something else.
It's a scary thought. That's a scary thought, Joshy. And I get why you would say that.
But it's such a low bar that maybe, again, the thing that scared me about Neto a year ago was that they needed help on the offensive line. Yeah. And except for the early games in the season and the extreme blowout against Florida, right, which was a mauling that everybody on the roster was able to get in the game and play in, he didn't play last season. So that the thought was that, well, that guy's suddenly going to be good enough to help us beat Ohio State in a national semifinal, or, you know what I mean? That's the discussion.
Yeah, that it was that clear to them is wild. And Dirkley, before we get to this super chat, so Catch, as you're talking about the offensive line decision, that's ultimately Sark's call. We all understand that.
Yeah, and it stops with him.
Right. It is his deal. So hopefully this is not, Kyle Flood is not being thrown under the bus in some realm. It's almost like the Charlie Strong bubble discussion. If Charlie Strong had been told by someone, Charlie, we're good, we don't need to upgrade the bubble, and he still says, yeah, we don't need to upgrade the bubble. Okay, you could say that person told him, but that's Charlie's call. And Charlie needed to be the one to say, man, you might want to upgrade that bubble. They're in the process of doing that as we speak. But this one, I don't understand how you're looking at all that. And we kept from point one on Arch Manning, the discussion was about what weaponry are you going to put around him? Look what you're losing.
Do you want me to say the quiet part out loud that we're not saying right now that is the goddamn elephant in the room?
Sure. What are we not saying?
This is why you have to have a real general manager.
Oh, yeah.
Because Sark is doing a million things. And on the offensive line, it came down to, and you know who he didn't listen to, or whose opinion he didn't listen to? His general manager. This is why you have that guy.
So are you telling me that now, technically he's got a guy in that role? Are you telling me Brandon Harris wanted an offensive lineman and he didn't listen to him?
I can't say that because I wouldn't want to be so specific.
Yeah.
I don't know Brandon Harris. Again, I get the sense that there was definitely not a unanimous front on what should be done. But what I'm telling you is It didn't come. Brandon Harris, I mean, I've touched like a half dozen people on this. The process didn't involve, well, Sark sat down with Brandon Harris and they talked about the personnel, and they decided with the personnel department the following things. The vibe is that Flood said, I got this. We've got this. We're good. And look, there's a million reasons for why that it might have been, hey, man, go spend that coin somewhere else. We need a bunch of defensive tackles, right? Don't go spend $1 million on me unless it's like a dude. If you get Emmanuel Pregnon, you can get Emmanuel Pregnon. But, like, otherwise, I got guys. We're going to be good.
Yeah, so on the backside, would Sark tell us, okay, that's why we were able to get those last 2 D tackles and go ahead and do the backup quarterback thing?
I mean, that's why you were able to give a walk-on a scholarship in August?
I wasn't going to mention that one, but, I don't know.
You were able to take a 4th quarterback when you felt like the guy that might be your 2 and could easily be your 3 might have had his head not in the game. And so let's go get a 4th who might be they made decisions.
They did.
Receiver,
tight end.
They made decisions. They went heavy in one spot and none at another. And it just sounds like this is look, and the thing is, I say this all the time because I don't want anybody to ever confuse me with thinking that either I don't think Brandon Harris is super. I think he's sensational. And I've talked to people this week who've like reiterated whatever the hell happened this year was not a Brandon Harris issue. He is the facilitator, an elite one of everything that Sark wants. I mean, I don't know what you have to, I've told you in the past, I don't care about what the titles are.
Right.
Make him the grand poobah of Texas football. That sounds dope, man. I would put that on a business card. Who are you? The minister of culture that Matthew McConaughey has.
Right.
That just sounds cool.
Make it the minister of football. Who cares? But you're saying
pigskin.
You're saying no matter what the labels are, there's a job that needs to be done to help Sark out, and nobody currently has that job. Is that your argument?
My contention is that, look, if you look around the NFL, the capologist is not your lead scout.
Right.
The person who negotiates contracts is not the guy who's evaluating defensive tackles. Right? Like, everybody has an incredibly specific job.
Yeah.
And for all of the stuff that a general manager does, he's often, well, I guess it is a he. There's not any women general managers in football, right?
I don't think so. Maybe an assistant, but I don't think a GM.
We've seen that like in baseball, but we haven't seen it in the NFL.
I think you're right about that.
But they're surrounded by experts, right? If you have a capologist, I don't care what that guy thinks about who we draft. Is he the best freaking guy in the world with numbers? Yes? Awesome. Remember when we were talking during the summer about one of the things that every program in the country's got to figure out is how to allocate dollars in the salary cap? Like, if you're going to have $17 million to spend, and then some of it's got to be supplemented, and how much of it goes to freshmen? Should you give a freshman tackle $1 million? All these questions. I don't expect the general manager to have the answers to all those. And one of the things that happened, I thought, during the offseason, every time we had this conversation, I felt like it was like, oh, well, Brandon Harris can break down film. It's like, that's not what I'm talking about. I can break down film, but I can't break down film as good as the best can break down film. I can't negotiate contracts as well as the best contract negotiators can negotiate contracts. I can't manage the salary cap better than someone who went to Yale and probably teaches classes on this kind of stuff. Like, that's what's needed at every level. And what Texas doesn't have, which I will say, for better or worse or indifferent, what Oklahoma does have this.
You think that's what Nagy is for them?
I don't think he necessarily makes their program better in terms of, I don't care that he's the general manager. I care that a guy with bona fide chops who knows all of the nooks and crannies all over the country at every small school, medium school, large school, contacts everywhere, that guy is in charge of like personnel. He's in charge of finding guys. He's in charge of finding guys who fit your scheme and what you're trying to do. And if they have a new coach, he's the guy who's immediately involved in, who fits our talent? If we hire this guy, how hard will it be to bring in talent? Do you know who doesn't answer that question? The new guy. He gets to have some counsel, but this stuff has to be, you have to have a year in the future, years of planning. Whenever free agency hits in a sport, the planning for that year in free agency did not start a month before it hit. It starts years in advance. Decisions affect other decisions, and it just takes insanely smart people. And like Brandon Harris is $1 million a year employee for me. I would call him whatever he wants. I don't care if he's the general manager. Honestly, that's the thing that people keep forgetting. You just have to make sure that when it comes to like personnel decisions and when it comes to what's available in the portal, Steve Sarkisian needed to have somebody that he could ask, if we go to the portal, can we find players that make us better?
Yeah, what's that?
And what didn't need to happen was Sark watch 20 goddamn offensive linemen.
Right.
What needed to happen was somebody needed to tell him, Sark, there's a bunch of guys out there that can go help us, right? If you're asking me, is there somebody out there that can be better than our fifth guy? Yes. Is there somebody out there that can be better than our sixth or seventh or eighth guy? Yeah, we can probably go find those guys. In fact, I can show you right now. And then Sark sees the film.
I was going to say, and show him film of 3 guys instead of 20.
And you know what? It's the general manager's job in working with the personnel guy to be like, I've already had conversations with the representatives of every player on our list. And this guy's going to cost us $250,000.
Yeah, he wants this.
Cost us $500,000, and this guy's going to cost us $1 million. Oh, well, the $1 million guy. How realistic is that? Then what you need your general manager to go, well, it's my job to know all the agents and have relationships with all of the agents. I don't need my capologist to talk to an agent ever. I need at least one person in the program, I think preferably your general manager, to have all the relationships.
Right,
and
feel
actually,
it out.
Brandon Harris does a great job of that. Like, he knows all the whispers. He is, what's our guy from Game of Thrones? Varys.
Oh, yeah, the bald guy.
He's got his little spiders.
Yeah.
But, like, it's not – so what Sark didn't have was a football guy that he respects so much. Because what the hell does really Kyle Flood know about what's available in the portal? When the portal opened up in January, should Kyle Flood have been super busy at that point with analyzing the top 100 offensive linemen in the portal? Were there games being played? Because this is what we worry about with Sark, too. He had to be the offensive coordinator that week.
Right. I'm saying you're prepping to try to go win a national championship. You're trying to win a national championship and win individual battles. You have no time for the forest because you are trying to figure out the tree that's coming up next.
And look, it's Flood's job. How did they keep one of you can't have it both ways. One of the things up until this past offseason, and it wasn't like a bunch of dudes bailed out. What, one guy left? The kid that was from Washington State. I've already forgotten his name because he didn't get on the field. Oh, Malik Agbo. You look at that 2022 class, they signed 7 offensive linemen. Up until this offseason, and I think Agbo waited till the spring, if I'm not mistaken. It's all a blur at this point because I remember thinking that he was going to transfer and then he didn't. And then we heard 3 days after he didn't portal out that he absolutely would be in the portal. So I'm pretty sure I'm remembering that correctly. But they kept everybody in that 2022 class in the program. Well, how do you keep Connor Robertson? How do you even keep Malik Agbo up until the semester in between his third and fourth season? How do you keep Neto? If you're Kyle Flood, you leverage those relationships. You say, hey, man, I believe in you. And I know you haven't played a whole lot, but next year, you're my guy, man. And there are confirmation biases that exist. He recruited those guys. He spilled blood with them. From the time those guys in the 2022 class, the moment he shows up in Austin, January of 2021, it's almost like almost the beginning of July 2020 or January 2021 up until now, right? Towards the back end of 2025. That's 5 years of relationships with 7 guys. And if it's easy to understand why he might have wanted to be really committed to those guys, that maybe the only reason why they kept Neto Yamuzalo around for this long was that he told them, look, you'll have 2 years left in 2025 and you can be a 2-year starter after Hayden Connor leaves and you'll go to the NFL. And by the way, we're recruiting your brother. Would we want your brother to be here if we didn't want you? That would be uncomfortable. Like, that might be a waste of time. What they got to have is somebody who's above them, who says it's not about show friends or show feelings. It's about show business. And Sark needs to be able to go to that guy and say, are there guys better than who we have?
Yeah.
And part of that answer can't be, well, coach, I've told these guys all year long this. No.
Are they better?
No.
Right.
Because the risk you run is that you get to this point on October 9th of 2025. There's 7 games left to be played in the season, and you may have risked the entire season on this one decision that was vetted, I think, outside the type of chain of command in a billion-dollar operation that should exist.
All right, we got super chats we are going to get to. If y'all want to throw them in, we got about 15 minutes or so left. Also, got a couple of ideas for you of a place or two to hang. Let me throw a little brunch idea at you. Taste on Main. We've talked about them as a great steakhouse. They are that. But on the weekends, they've got great brunch as well. 10 to 3 on Saturdays and Sundays. Here's just a taste of some of the things. The beignets in the upper left, they're excellent. They got great drinks. That's a creme brulee for you in the top center, if that is something you're into. And don't forget, Taste on Main does only East Coast oysters. If you're an oyster person and you go check them out as a steakhouse and you want oysters, they only do the East Coast variety. So get on out there, check them out. Tell them that you heard about it on Orange Bloods Live when you check out Taste on Main. We do have super chats rolling in. Let's start with Dirkley here. $4.99. I feel like we need to put the blame on our defense for the Florida loss. Dirkley, I certainly do, more than anything else. And
but the thing is, Chad, you and Dirkley aren't wrong, but the defense wasn't non-competitive. And the thing that stands out about the Florida game, even though they gave up a boatload of points, certainly compared to what we would have expected out of that group, the feeling is there were areas of that team that were non-competitive. And so while even Arch is a good example. Like, Arch made mistakes, right? We all can say that. And I think we would even say Arch wasn't good enough, which was what we would say about the defense. And at the end of the day, they lost. He owned some of it. But we didn't walk out of there feeling like Arch couldn't walk out of the building with his head held high. Now, this loss, I think, is different than a lot of losses. And I think a lot of losses lately, because this wouldn't have been the case even for the Ohio State game. There was, coming out of that Buckeyes game, there was a feeling of like, well, they didn't play well. But nobody said they have to feel shame for how they played. Coming out of the Florida game, there's a sense that on that offensive side of the ball, some real shame exists, specifically with the offensive line. Another question that Sark was asked today, and I'm glad I remembered it, because somebody asked, and let me tell you, this is how annoyed Sark is.
Okay.
somebody said,
thank you for the super chat, Dirkly.
Are you guys still cross-training Cole Hudson at guard, or is the possibility of playing Cole Hudson at guard and Connor Robertson at center and Cole Hudson at guard, is that something that you guys have worked on? And he was like, yes. And that was it.
Wow. Okay.
Short
answers, quick burst.
That was the third offensive line question. And the third related to guys that you're not playing. Hey, man, can they play?
And he already laid it out in the earlier press conference about he feels the media going from one discussion to another on the offense, whether it's about Arch or it's about the run game. And now he feels like the big focus is what we're talking about today.
Well, because, again, the feeling is those offensive linemen should have held their head. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's fair to go to Nick Brooks and say, hey, when you walk out to the bus, don't you hold your head up high. Like, but I think that there are fans. I think it is so overwhelmingly. I saw a meme of some ICE agents who are overweight and from the state of Texas, or maybe it was like National Guard people going to Chicago. I can't remember exactly what the context of the photo was, but the dudes in the photo were overweight. And the joke was like, Texas is sending these guys to Chicago and the Texas offensive line needs help.
Right. That was funny. That was definitely funny. All right, Catch. We got limited time.
When it reaches that level, right?
Yeah.
When it becomes that much of that's a hardcore joke, man. And do you realize how big of a problem something has to be for it to cross over to something like that?
Yeah, that is
somebody was sitting around and was like, the world sucks. But you know what? That right there, Texas offensive line. I mean,
yeah, that is tough. All right, Catch, we're on limited time. We got these super chats to get through. I know you're going to want to talk them through, so let's go. $5 from Josh. How does Mateer's thumb make it through a full game? Won't the players punch, slap, and yank on it? Any chance given?
I don't know, and yes.
Yeah, they're going to test it.
And look, this is going to make me sound like a horrible person. If there's a way to train your players to like drive their helmets into the area of his hand, I would. Not like trying to force contact, but like, hey, man, you know what I never do? When a quarterback's hand hits a helmet, I have never thought that dirty, low-down, rotten defensive player, how dare he have his helmet on? Like,
you got to helmet on the ball, hands on the ball, all that kind of stuff. You're testing that hand in every way that you can.
If it was an ankle, what are we going to do? We're going to try to test that ankle.
Yeah,
so,
no doubt.
If I mean, that's how the game works.
Clay 499. Catch, would you rather have as your quarterback for the rest of the season, Mateer or your boy Klubnik? Let's make both of them.
Klubnik, because I know what his high upside is. Let me just say this again, man. Mateer comes into this game with a lower quarterback efficiency than Arch Manning, who was literally described this week by a national publication as synonymous with losing because of his just dreadful play. And it's like, guys, as bad as Arch has been, he leads the team in rushing. He has less good personnel around him than we've seen in the last couple of years. And his quarterback efficiency rating is 50 points higher than Garrett Gilbert's was in 2010. Like, I'm not telling you. And look, nobody can accuse me of saying that Arch has been good. He's not been. But I'm using the exact same standards that I used last year for Quinn Ewers. And using those standards, he's not been good enough. But, perspective, people.
All right, 3 more to get to. Catch 1999 from JR. Regarding your self-comment about Sark and his 5 years with 2 5-star quarterbacks with meh quarterback ratings being drive-by, is this a valid quest for a press conference, or would it get you banned? To me, it is valid and brings some reality.
I think it's a completely fair question. I would have no problems being at a press conference and saying, Coach, in the 5 years that your staff has been at Texas, do you think there's a primary reason why you guys haven't yet had elite quarterback play of something like 160 or better from a quarterback rating or higher?
Right.
And I would see where he takes the question.
Yeah, got to find the right week to ask it, the right moment to ask it. But that's like a bye. That's a great bye week kind of step back type of question.
Or it's a week where your quarterback has a terrible game. If Arch throws 4 picks on Saturday and you lose by 4 touchdowns, you're the week after that game. Ask Mac Brown. You're going to get asked, why didn't you play your freshman running back? And you know what? That might not have been asked. I don't remember. Honestly, I don't think I was a credentialed media member yet when the said Benson.
Oh, yeah.
I know it was asked. I don't know if the week of, because he hadn't played in the game yet. So I don't think it was an actual question the week of the game. Hey, Coach, that 5-star running back you've been playing every week leading up to this, you going to play him on Saturday? Nobody asked that question. The week after, he got asked the question.
Yeah, that's true. JR, thank you for that super chat. ATX Bates jumps in.
Just real quick, back to the question, because I think that every question is a good question. The way a question is asked, not every way is good. And I think that, man, you got to think about asking these coaches like you have to think about talking to girls or guys on dates. There's a million ways. There's a million ways to tell either a guy or a girl, depending on whoever you're dating, depending on whatever your sex is. There's a million ways to tell them they look fantastic. There are some horrible ways. There are some fantastic ways. There are some average ways. A terrible way to ask that question is, Sark, you've sucked at quarterbacks. Why? But if you can think of a way to ask that question where you sound super nice and considerate while still stabbing the stick in.
Yeah, maybe use the phrase the numbers would suggest.
The numbers, hey, you could say, Coach, you haven't had a quarterback in the last 5 years rated among the nation's top 30 at the end of the season in passing efficiency. Is that a big deal? And why do you think that is?
Yeah, no, I think that'd be fair. All right, 2 more real quick catch if we can. ATX. No.
Because you can't let the fact that he's the quarterback guy turn everybody into a bunch of pussies who won't ask the question. Because you'll ask about Flood and you'll ask about all of the other things. You won't. The media has a hard time asking about Sark because it's his baby. And it's why you just have to be delicate. And any of those men that are in there that are married once upon a time had enough game that they were able to speak to the woman they would eventually marry and be charming enough to catch her attention. It's with that magic that you ask your questions at a press conference. And honestly, just like with some guys are smooth talkers and other guys aren't. And just because you're in the media doesn't mean that you show up with question asking game. But if you listen to some people, you can tell there's a methodology to their madness. And you know what almost never happens? And Terry from Horns Illustrated is a perfect example. Every time he asks a question, we might think sometimes, Terry, what the hell did you just ask? But you know what never happens? Steve Sarkisian never hears a question from Terry, no matter whatever it is, and thinks to himself, that asshole's trying to backdoor his way into getting me on First Take. Sark ended up on First Take this month on Tuesday morning. But it wasn't because of a Terry Middleton question. And that isn't to say that Terry doesn't ask good questions, but Sark doesn't feel unease with Terry. And that is the trick, honestly, to being successful in this industry in that vein, is to be able to ask your questions. Watch the way Anwar does it. Like, Anwar is not going up there trying to Mike Tyson anybody with the question, because he wants to get the best answer possible. And if you're a Richard Cranium, when you ask the question, You're going to get a Richard Cranium reply back or no reply back at all. And ultimately, you're asking the question because you'd like to hear as legitimate of an answer as possible for why this thing exists. Okay, now I'm done. Super chats go.
All right, let's see if we can get there. ATX Bates for 5. I'm the cardinal of catharsis at work, so make Brandon Harris the CEO of Texas football, the chief euphemism officer. That could work, whatever you want to call it.
Or make the freaking head of your player personnel, right? Like a guy that's the what's the guy's name at OU?
Nagy?
Yeah, make your Nagy the CEO. You know what I mean? Like these titles, they make them up on the staff all the time to justify raises.
Yep.
I don't care. I'm telling you, I care so little. It's why I keep saying Grand Poobah. It can be silly. It can be serious. All that matters is that you have the elite people on staff. Who cares what you call them? Pay them a lot of money, give them responsibility, trust them. That's the process.
Yeah, you could call them bad MF, give them a wallet and everything. All right, finally, it's Jay for 5. You're right, Catch. The answer to the question I asked you is that someone detached from the relationships with the players has to make those decisions.
Remember in Moneyball when they make the trades? Art Howe does not sit in his office and tell Jeremy Giambi that he's been traded.
Right.
I can't even remember the player it was that Jonah Hill's character tells that he's been traded. And he's like, hey, you've been to Detroit. You've been traded to Detroit. This is the person that you're going to call. Like, that's not the third base coach.
Right. Not the guy that's with him day in, day out, practices, all that stuff, airplane rides and hotels and knows everything. That can't be the person making the choice.
And you know who they don't ask about whether or not that's a guy that they should give an extension to?
The coach.
The same coach.
Don't ask that guy. Right. Don't ask that guy. And in this case, it's probably not fair to try to figure out, again, Kyle Flood is probably not the most fair guy to ask.
Well, and look, this is there are lots of elephants in the room on this. This is all so new. Everybody that's in this industry is from a mom and pop shop world. And it goes against, like, Sark's instincts are, I have a very tight inner circle, so tight you probably can't even count it with 5 fingers. One hand with a couple of lost fingers, that's probably enough. Because not even everybody on his coaching staff's in his inner circle. Then you have your coaching staff, right? But what you've got to be able to have is you got to break away from this mindset of, well, I can just do everything. And Sark does a lot of that. It's very hard to convince a guy like Sark or Saban or any number of these guys that the one thing that they've got to have is 10 department chairs, right? That sounds like bureaucracy to a certain extent.
It sounds like, because to them, it'll sound like more work.
You'll convince yourself that it sounds like Congress. That's what we need to do. We need to let the Senate decide. No. What you got to do is and this is where I can't believe Sark isn't a little more like this. What would the NFL do? And go call any head, go call Shanahan, right? And say, Kyle, like, does your offensive line coach, like, how much input does that guy have on what you do next year with offensive linemen? You mean the guy that I may or may not even keep next year or the year after? Like the guy that has 1 year left on his deal and we haven't decided, like, not a lot actually. And oh, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, I think Kyle Flood only had until he got an extension. I think Kyle Flood at most only has a couple of years on his deal. The assistant coaches don't have 3 or 4 or 5 year deals. They usually get 1 or 2 year deals. So decisions that you're making for the end of the decade won't include, in almost all likelihood, 50% of the current coaches on staff. They're making decisions on guys who will be seniors in 2030. And the overwhelming majority of assistant coaches on this staff will not be around to like guide them in those final seasons. So maybe their opinions shouldn't matter a lot because they ain't going to be here when it's time for those dudes to produce.
Yeah. Jay, thank you for that super chat. All right, Catch, you get out of here. I know you got something to get to. I will see you tomorrow. We'll have Brian Jones in one way or another tomorrow, and we'll be getting ready for Texas OU.
And real quick, as an example of that last point, Tashard Choice as every running back on campus right now, the running backs coach had no input on. It looks like Texas doesn't have any running backs that are special. Boy, they probably should ask themselves, how are we making our decisions on running backs? We let Tashard Choice have a big say in that. No offense to the current running backs coach, but maybe change the process up a little bit, because we lack some skill. And that's not like true freshmen are the only guys on campus. That's years of recruiting. It's got to be a more refined process from beginning to end than, well, a guy made that decision for the coach and the coach went with it. Okay, if he's going to do that, it better be somebody that's his profession and specialty. And right. If that dude's the wolf, then he's the wolf. But you can't have the wolf. You know what the wolf does? He gets you out of jams. You know what the wolf from Pulp Fiction didn't do? Anyone's taxes.
Yeah, right.
He didn't go home after cleaning up murders and then like, oh, yeah, no problem. Send those 2022 returns my way and we'll get that audit like all set up for the IRS. That's not what they do. Okay, yeah. Now I'm done.
All right. Have a good meeting. I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you. You too.
Jeff Ketchum, ladies and gentlemen, before we close up, if you guys want to throw a super chat my way, we will get that. Thank you guys for jumping in. Shout out to Specs, first of all. Of course, you see that rabbit each and every show right up there in the upper right. Get the Specs app on your phone. Get stuff delivered if you need it for your next party. They got Halloween stuff, obviously cranking up. If you want the best Halloween party, want some ideas on food and drink and how do you make everything look properly creepy, check them out at Specs. Go on into your local Specs or get the Specs app on your phone. Also, when it comes to the eating and the drinking, one of my favorite places to go get some drinks would be the Deep Eddy Vodka Tasting Room. Now, you can get some Deep Eddy Vodka at Specs as well, or you can head on out to the tasting room, get some Deep Eddy Vodka out there. They got great cocktails. My wife loves that cherry limeade. Last time we were out there, we definitely tried that El Pepino, a little more of a spice to that one. You see it's got jalapenos in it, got a little kick to it. And I love pineapple Deep Eddy Vodka. It might already be my favorite, even though it was the 9th flavor that was introduced. But that pineapple mule was excellent. They do all kinds of cool cocktails. Remember, bring those mason jars and martini glasses back for a discounted refill. You see the hours there. Wednesdays and Thursdays, 12 to 7. Friday, Saturday is 11 to 7. Sunday, 12 to 5 at the Deep Eddy Vodka Tasting Room. Tell them you heard about it on Orange Bloods Live. We would appreciate you for that. Thank you for all the super chats today. Remember, we will be at TCH Social Austin 183 and Anderson Mill for Texas OU. Speaking of drinking, $2 select drafts, $3 jellyfish, yes please, $4 Fanatic cocktail, and the wing special as well. Come on out, get ready for the post-game show, and we will hope the Longhorns can bounce back from what happened last week. Again, sorry for you Brian Jones fans. Brian is traveling today, getting ready for that Indiana-Oregon game on CBS. What we're going to do is Brian's going to give us a little time this evening. So I'm going to record with Brian, maybe get a Texas OU story or two, get his thoughts on what he saw against Florida and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully we'll get you a good Brian Jones rant or two, and we will insert it into tomorrow's show. But we'll have the very latest for you on the injury reports and all that. We didn't get into the specifics of it, but real quick, Baxter's still doubtful for Texas on the first report. Maybe the good news is Muhammad and Livingston are listed as probable. That's supposed to be 75% for those injury reports, and no Wisner at all. So that's probably good news. Earlier in the week, Sark said Wisner was good, and then he's not on the report at all. So I think that's good news. And then Mateer is listed as questionable. That's supposed to be a coin flip. That's supposed to be 50%. Mateer questionable. Also, Keontez Lewis, the receiver, listed as questionable. Man, I hope that kid's all right. I went back to watch the Kent State game. He went crashing into that brick wall behind the end zone in Norman. wow, that was bad. Whoa, that looked bad. And the fact that he's listed as questionable, I would have expected them to just say he was out or doubtful at a minimum. But I hope he's all right. And if he's able to play, that would be amazing. That looked really bad when he went into the wall. All right. Thank you guys for jumping in on the chat today. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and getting your notifications. We're up over 152,000 subscribers, and that's because of you guys. Remember to hit that QR code in the upper left to join orangebloods.com. It is Thursday, so it's War Room night at Orange Bloods. Always a little something extra in that war room right before Texas OU. We'll see if Texas can stand up like they didn't last week and make this a possibility kind of season at 4-2 and not a 3-3. What the hell's going on kind of season. Get to orangebloods.com for the very latest. Thank you for supporting us here. Check out the videos and short section on the YouTube page. When you look up Orange Bloods Live, there's a lot of great content there. We got even more coming. Thank you for supporting us. Y'all have a great Thursday.